Good evening, everyone. I'm Rakhi Gautam from greytHR, the moderator for the session today. I welcome you all today to our Ask the Expert webinar, Parichay. The topic for today is Data-Driven Excellence, Leveraging Analytics in Performance Management. Now, before I dive into the topic, let's do a little housekeeping on how the session goes. So the session is divided into two parts. The first part will be the discussion with our expert, which will then be followed by an audience Q&A. So the audience Q&A is where time is all yours, dear attendees. You can start putting across your questions in the Zoom, in the Q&A option of the Zoom control panel that you can see on your screen. And we will take your questions towards the end. Also, the session is currently being recorded. So if you happen to miss out on anything, do not worry at all. We have got you covered. We will share the recording with you once it is done. And also, this webinar recording will be available on our greytHR YouTube official channel. So you can always go there and watch it. Okay, now I think we have the quorum with us to start the session. So without any further delay, let's start the session. In today's dynamic business landscape, harnessing the power of analytics has become essential for optimizing organizational performance. From redefining KPIs to fostering agile decision-making and nurturing a culture of continuous improvement, data-driven excellence offers unparalleled opportunities. Today, we will learn about cutting-edge tools and technologies and discover how data-driven insights can revolutionize your performance management strategy and drive sustainable success. With our guest speaker, Ms.Sulbha, Chief People Officer at RenewBuy. Now, before we dive into the questions that we have, let me take you all quickly through our speaker's profile. Sulbha has a multifaceted 16 years of rich experience in the human capital profession, focused on strategic HR interventions, driving business optimization. Her strength is designing and conceptualizing sophisticated processes, driving organizational and people capabilities. She has developed a global perspective and cross-cultural competence through her experiences and has strong networking and relationship management skills. She has also earlier worked with EY, driving strategic and innovative people strategy. She also later started her entrepreneurial journey and founded People Matrix. Once again, I welcome you, Sulbha, and we're very excited for this session today.
Thank you so much, Rakhi, for the warm welcome and the great introduction. Very happy to be here with all of you.
The pleasure is ours. Okay, now that we are done with the introductions, I'll quickly start with my first question. We want to keep it very basic, and to set the context, what do you think? How can organizations effectively integrate the power of data analytics into their performance management strategies to not only measure success, but also drive improvement and innovation?
So the topic is actually very interesting and technical, and I hope audience find it interesting. I'll try to keep it very simple and less of jargons. So to answer your question, Rakhi, I think there is immense opportunity and power of data analytics, and it percolates to different functions of the organizations and not just only to performance management. But for organizations to leverage the power of analytics, it's important to define the why. Why are they using analytics, and what is something that they want to address or get answers for? So once the organization is able to identify what is something that they are going to monitor or observe. So just to give an example for people to understand where this analytics can be used. So obviously employee performance is one of the things. It can also be used for ensuring how the unit economics of the organizations is working. In the external environment, what is the customer satisfaction? It could also be about internal efficiency. So, clearly defining the objective. And once we have done that, it's all about collecting the data and integrating it to the various systems. So, to effectively leverage the power of data analytics, it is important that you collect the data from various sources, it could be, you can use different databases, and, different sources of data can come in, but it's important that everything comes together and then integrated into your systems. Once you do that, then, there are different kind of tools that you need to apply to get the inferences out of it. And that's when the analysis and the reporting happens. And once you are able to get the intelligence from the data, the analysis from the data, that's when, organizations can use that information to define and establish their indicators, their KPIs, the matrix that they want to drive, and that's when they kind of set up their targets or benchmark themselves. So this is really how one needs to think about it when it comes to using data analytics to drive further improvement and innovation. And it is also about, you continuously monitor your data, keep on reflecting on it, how it is moving, the various parameters of the organization, and then take decisions basis this data. So one of my favorite line is that data is decision making. So once you have that, you will be able to make the right decisions. And then it is always an iterative process, because you're talking about the innovation. It has to be an iterative process where you continuously look upon improving the use and making the analysis, look at the trends, and then strategize on the further, how on the various elements that you want to tackle. So in my view, these are some of the ways you can make data analytics integral to your organization, and then take it to a different level of improvement and, further innovation.
Sure. Thank you, Sulbha, for setting the context. I think all of us here would resonate with what you just said. It's important, first of all, to collect data from all the places and then integrate it at one place. Because what happens when we talk about performance review, or for that matter, a success or a failure of a project, right? The data comes in different forms and formats from different sources. So it is important that we collect that data, bring it to one place, and then analyze it. Given once we have all the data in place, it will help us make better informed decisions. And in case of our performance reviews, performance management of our employees, once we have the data with us, we know, okay, this might be the area where this particular employee needs to work more on, or this is the area that he does really well, and maybe we could give him more responsibilities which will be similar to that line of action. So it's important that we have integrated data with us, and then we analyze it accordingly for maximum employee efficiency, productivity, overall management. So thank you, Sulbha, for setting the context. I'll just move on to my next question, which is on the similar lines, but maybe a deeper dive into what we just discussed. Data-driven approaches have significant, traction in performance management. Please help us elaborate on some examples that you have come across of how leveraging analytics can directly enhance employee productivity, engagement, and overall organizational performance.
Oh, there are multiple examples, actually. When you if your aim is to impact the employee productivity, engagement, and organization, there are many parameters that you can look at that can help you. So if I have to pick up employee productivity, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? How is my span of control? How are my people? How is the work distributed amongst the people? So, the analytics can help us understand what is the, span of control. Is somebody overburdened or somebody's idle? That kind of a workload sharing that, can be easily defined. Then something on the time management. So how people are spending their time. And there are several tools which can help organizations to track, so sometimes people are expected to work on particular platform, or are expected to use a certain kind of a product to, work upon to deliver as per the expectation. So, is the adequate amount of time being allocated by the employee? And is there a merit in just seeing if their tasks are prioritized and they are able to, effectively use the time? So something for that. We already discussed about performance management. So, for employee productivity, that's again a very important metric to track. Data analytics really helps in finding the real-time performance, and there are several dashboards that can be created that can track the performance for the employees, and organizations can have a view on the employee productivity. For employee productivity, and that's one more thing that comes to my mind is also predictive analysis that can be used, where organizations can, depending upon the kind of sector they are operating, that can forecast the demand or the external environment, the internal ramp up that needs to happen. All of that can come into play, and that can be then connected back to the employee productivity. With respect to engagement, again, many analytics can be used. Very commonly used ones are employee surveys. So, that gives insights on how people are feeling, what's it's driving, what is their feedback. So, you can do a deep dive and understand the levels of engagement, and you can identify what is working well for the organization and the areas where organization needs to work upon. For employee engagement, something else that can also be used is when you look at their employees' learning and development programs, for that matter. It can give insights into what are the skills that the people have currently, how can they be used, and what has been their performance level. So, for that also can be used. We spoke about the performance also. So the correlation is with the rewards. So how are your reward systems working? Are they identifying the right person? Are you accordingly celebrating those high performers and creating a platform for them? That can also be done. For the overall organization performance, I think again analytics play a huge role. For HR, it all starts by acquiring the talent. So analytics helps also understand the right kind of fit. When you look at apply the data analytics on the existing people and try and identify who are the high performers, what are the skills, background, experience these people are coming from. So there can be a correlation there. And it can also give an insights to the talent acquisition team, when they are sourcing a candidate to have the optimal fit for the organization. And data analytics is used in many other aspects also. And one of them can be, for example, customer satisfaction, for example. So CSAT is extremely important score for a lot of organizations, and analytics can reveal what is again working well for the organization, what are the areas with respect to their product or services they need to invest. It also helps in the financial performance of the organization, where you identify are there opportunities for saving cost, are there opportunities for more efficiency, are there better revenue margins in any kind of a product, are some products fast moving or slow moving, or house inventory. So many more financial performances can also be tracked through the data analytics, and these are some of the tangible examples I can think of where if tracked, monitored, the organization can see significant improvement in their performance.
Sure. Thank you, Sulbha. I think that was a lot. I mean, I have taken my notes. I hope the audience has already done so. Because as you know, when we talk about performance management, we often, link it to appraisal or, okay, I'm performing well. So this will, I might get a good increment like that. But when we look at the overall picture, it's gonna, at the end of the day, contribute to the organizational organization as a whole. It's just not restricted to the employee performance, but it can also help us track various metrics attached to it. Because as we say, employees are the pillars of any organization. If we are able to identify the performance and what is affecting negatively or positively one's performance, we are able to also track how we can benefit, or there's scope for improvement for various activities that we are doing at organizational level. Also, you
Yeah,
talked about it.
yeah, that's right. And we should be really trying to connect all the dots.
Yeah.
While performance is one aspect where obviously data is leveraged a lot, but I think there are many more aspects where it can be used, and it can be very, very useful for the organization to look at the pockets where they can invest, and they can see some, very amazing results if they work upon them.
Sure, definitely. I think data as a whole is really helping us make informed decisions now. And with the inception of technology, things have just gotten, easier. There's a lot of data. Before, we would have to manually work on everything. There would be like a tons of spreadsheets in front of us. Now there are tools and technologies that can help us streamline all of that better, and save our time and give more like accurate results that way. So definitely, I think we need to, as an organization, invest a lot on performance management for sure, but also data as to how we are leveraging data for different aspects of HR functions. Okay, thank you, Sulbha, for that. Moving on to my next question, which is, performance. As we have been speaking about, performance trends and patterns can unveil valuable insights, as you rightly mentioned about financial performance of an organization can also be we can know through data. So if there are any instances that you can share where data analytics revealed unexpected correlations between seemingly unrelated performance metrics, leading to transformative changes in how business manage their teams today.
Yeah, I mean, there are many researches done, and we have seen some very unexpected correlations. And I have been privy to certain reports, and from my own personal example of my current organization, also I can share. I think one is fairly common, and I'm sure a lot of audience must have also heard or read, is employee engagement or employee happiness versus the customer satisfaction. So while one data vector talks about the employees, the other vector is talking about the satisfaction of the customer, the external. But there is a strong correlation between these two very different entities. And it has been seen that there is great linkage between employees' own engagement and happiness at work, because a happy or an engaged employee is always working harder, and the feeling of association is much higher, and hence when they are serving their customers or their clients, they are doing more than optimum deliveries, and hence resulting in a higher satisfaction levels. Reverse is also true. Anyone who is disengaged or unhappy at workplace will exhibit some kind of a impact on their customer service part of it, and that is also reflected. So these are two different vectors that I see kind of correlate. The other is very interesting, and this, I was listening to a podcast of Sugar Cosmetics by Vinita Singh, and she spoke about how the social media activity, when was managed, resulted in sales. So she leveraged that data, that information, and this organization, Sugar Cosmetics, tried to find the correlation between the social media activity, like likes or shares or comment and sales of their product. So then they worked upon their social media marketing strategy, and then they started focusing on the products with high social engagement, and that kind of led to the increased sales with obviously very efficient budget. So this was an interesting example I could think of for this, how a social media activity and sales kind of being a different vectors coming together and work for the organization. I would like to give an example about my own current organization is that I see again two different vectors like employee collaboration with project success. So very recently, we have made cross-functional teams, and we have kind of made certain projects, and now we are discovering that as we kind of break the silos and as the employees are working and collaborating across the department as a unit, the projects that have been picked up by the leads through a cross-functional team are seeing a very different kind of a momentum vis-a-vis different departments running the projects and trying to get the work done from the others. When people kind of come together, there has been enough evidence that teams are communicating frequently, there is lesser friction, there is a sense of purpose, they are kind of united with the outcome of the project, and there's more knowledge sharing happening, and ultimately it is resulting in an improved project outcome. So that is something, one example I can think from my own organization. And again, a very common thing, again, different vectors correlating is employee health and absenteeism. These days, I think in post-pandemic, a lot of organizations have focused a lot on employee well-being and health. And then they have seen a very strong correlation between how an employee's health impacts their absenteeism rate. So definitely better health tends to have healthier people at workplace, obviously resulting in lesser absenteeism. So again, companies then initiated investing more in the wellness programs, and that has resulted in a better presentism for that matter in the organization. So these are some of the examples I could think of, Rakhi. I hope they make sense to you and the audience.
They definitely did. I'm sure everybody would agree with me on that. Very insightful. In fact, we would, because what would happen before, there would be different departments and our work would only be restricted towards our department. Okay, this is only my work, this is their work. So we'll not get into much into, data or trying to find patterns that there's a correlation between the two. As you mentioned about sugar cosmetics, how the products which are performing well on social media, when they engage with that and try to come up with something similar, it increased their sales. So social media sales very different, right? When we talk about social media, it's more on brand image, not very lead generation or salesy engagement that we do on social media. Rightly also mentioned about how when we track the performance management of an employee, it's just not to tell them, okay, it should never be one-sided, that we are tracking how they are doing. When we talk about employee wellness programs, if we also have a column or something that talks about, okay, I would also rate my the current profile that I'm in, or the projects that I've taken on, if these are benefiting in upskilling myself, or if this is something that interests me, or if I see that there is a larger objective to it, how my work is overall contributing to the organizational objective. So that correlation, if that happens, if I see that metric, then I will perform better, I will feel more engaged, and I'll give more, there will be more productivity in my work that I do, and that will automatically increase the organizational performance. So I think when we say today's session obviously is about performance management, but in performance management, there's a lot of different, factors and data that we take on. So when I look at it, I feel like this is a very 360-degree approach that we should take, and we should when we track this, we should tackle all the, and we should take mark all the boxes that are there. So thank you, Sulbha. I think I really like this sugar cosmetics example. It helps us understand more how different, some two different things can come together. So thank you so much for that. Also, I think there are a few questions that we'll take on. In the meantime, I saw some hands being raised. So if you have any questions, participants, you can put your questions in the chat Q&A option, and we will take those questions very soon. Okay, moving on to my next question on performance evaluation. Now we see how key performance indicators that we call KPIs are the backbone of performance evaluation in any organization. So if you can share how data-driven, we talk about data-driven excellence, can redefine the selection and tracking of KPIs. What kind of, what kind of fields should we have in KPIs, the kind of tracking we should do, ensuring that they remain relevant and adaptable, even in such a dynamic landscape, which is ever evolving. Every day there's something new coming up. So in that case, how should we design our KPIs in a way that remains constant, and how should we track it?
Sure. So one of the reasons why some of the KPIs kind of fall through, or organizations are not able to do a good job of it, is their alignment with the overall business objectives of the business goals. It's extremely important when, in fact, again, I'll take my current organization's example. As an organization, when we define our goals, even and they may appear to be outwardly business focused, but when HR also defines their goals, we ensure that they are directly correlated with the business objectives. So what is HR going to do and deliver, that the overall organization goal is met. So it is extremely important that when you are designing the KPIs, you identify the business goals and understand, again, what is the strategic initiative or the objectives that we are looking to achieve. And in the context of data analytics, it is important that those, to be able to track your KPIs, you have the relevant information and the quality of data is available, because what will you track if you don't really have the data around it? And then, you have to also look into that it is benchmarked in a manner where you set standards. What is something that you want to achieve, what is good, great, or not so great kind of a achievement. So you need to define all of that. I've also seen that sometimes why it fails is because the organizations are operating in an environment where things change constantly, and that leads to also change in the priorities of the organizations. When you operate in such a dynamic economic environment, you have to have more agile and adaptive KPI framework. So it should not happen that you kind of get stuck in one kind of a format. So people who use some kind of systems, for example, there should be flexibility to make amendments, changes, modification to the KPIs, which kind of relates to the changing business landscape. Also, to ensure that these KPIs remain relevant, you have to do a very regular review. Something that gets measured, gets managed very clearly. So until and unless there is a strong review process, and in performance management, I think that is one of the core things that that needs to be followed through. So that should happen. And these reviews actually give you the insights of what how you are progressing, and how the performance is, and you also get to understand there is in a share market and say if it goes below this level, you need to sell a stock. So when our KPI is dropping, that's the time when the organization really needs to see what's happening, what is so dramatically happening in this particular KPI and what needs to be done, and it needs to be reassessed and reevaluated. So that's very important with the KPIs. And to ensure that performance management or the KPIs remain relevant as per question, and it's extremely important that all the stakeholders are completely involved. When I was giving you an example of how cross-functional teams help the project success, similarly, cross-functional team collaboration is extremely important in the overall achievement of the KPIs of the organization. So people at the top need to come together, discuss, and have literally a KPI selection process where they pick up what is most relevant and important for the organization and drive the organization and the people down below on those. One side is at the leadership level, the other side is also the employees. So employees need to be engaged, and they need to understand what this KPI means, how will they contribute, what does it mean to them for their own performance, what is the impact, and how does it translate into rewards and things, so that you have a buy-in of the employee who's going to be the key lever in driving the outcomes. And so you have to continuously look at them, be agile about it, and keep building a process through which you kind of innovate and keep looking at the relevance of the KPIs, and that's really very important for any organization to be able to drive and stay relevant when the business environments are extremely dynamic.
Sure. Thank you, Sulbha, for that. I think you started with something that really hit the nail, that for each employee, it's very important that, whatever KPIs are there for her or him, he or she can see how that is, contributing to the overall objective or the goal of the organization. If I see that the work I do is relevant, and this is how this percent of what I do will overall transform the organization's success or contribute towards it, then I'm able to also I feel more motivated. I feel, okay, this is my contribution, I should do more, and this is the right approach to it. So I think, yeah, that is very important that we understand that, and while designing the KPIs, it's important that we take care of all those factors that come in there. Also, I think you talked about how we can keep it relevant. So when we regularly review it, when we regularly give feedback to our employees, also there's a one-on-one between the manager and the employee. It sets the it gives them more confidence as to what is working, what is not, and then accordingly we can maybe redefine KPIs. We can introduce more things. If there's a need for upskill, we could maybe loop in an L&D training that's currently going on in the organization that the particular employee can take on. What will happen in that way is the employee will also feel engaged. He will feel that, okay, he's being given regular feedback, and then of course at the end of the day, the overall success. So that will be done. So thank you, Sulbha, for sharing that. My next question is actually similar to what we just discussed, but more on how real-time analytics empowers managers. So before we would just set the KPIs, and okay, that's just setting ideal, and we don't do anything about it. But when we have data coming in, we see some patterns. We talked about predictive analysis in the beginning. So how all that can, how real-time analytics empowers managers, and then how can they build more agile teams? Like the team which is very confident, which is very up to date, and they know what they're working on.
So I think I use data a lot of times, and all the time, for us, we literally live, breathe data and look at it to make the right decisions. I think managers can leverage, and all the managers should leverage the data to make It's not only about a year-end performance management process, but it's also about the day-to-day, how you're managing your teams, how you're motivating your teams, how are you giving feedback to your team members, and you're ensuring that everyone is totally aligned. So I think there are many ways in which real-time analytics can help. First and foremost is monitoring the performance on a daily basis. So mine is a sales centric organization, and we use real-time dashboards every day. That gives us insights on how the sales are happening, how our daily run rates are, what's our activation, and cross sales, etc., etc. So we have those different parameters, and every organization would have their own dashboards, and those come in very, very handy. And in fact, the real-time dashboards also, when you look over a period of time, kind of gives you an insights, and helps you make some tactical decisions of driving the sales. You can think about some kind of a contest, some kind of a focus intervention, and then that can happen through this. When you're using the data, you also identify issues, so you can go and drill down the pockets where things are moving as per your expectation. There could be areas where not only the team managers but even the seniors probably need to kind of intervene. So it helps you. Sometimes you only see a number dipping, but what is behind the dip? So the data helps us identify, to drill down further. What is something? Is this an employee? Is this an infra problem? Is this a technical problem? It is just an operational problem, or is this a problem being caused by an external environment? So it helps us identify the issues and take the right course correction. Like I said, daily monitoring and looking at the data analysis, it gives a lot of insights to the sales leadership and even the managers to see what is changing the behavior, right? What kind of customer segment gets motivated by what kind of reward? What tickles people? So and it helps you take on the fly kind of decisions, and that's possible by looking at the data and doing the analysis. With this, managers can work upon the areas of improving the performance of their team members. They will be exactly able to understand. If I have to just give you an example of sales, for example, and if cross-sell is not happening, it could be because of the lack of knowledge of other products. So managers get the insight that this person is not able to do cross-sell, and which other product the person is not able to sell. And then getting deep dive into it, whether the person understands. Does he need more training? Does he need more handholding? Does he need to see more, need to do on-the-job training? So again, quick monitoring and, on the go feedback and on the job coaching can happen through the data. It will also and data, when you're looking at it on a daily basis and looking at the performance, it is working both ways, not only for the organizations where they are able to kind of not only make tactical decisions but drive the people, but it is for the people also. They also get to know the insights. What is something that they are doing is making an impact, or what is something they need to focus to be able to meet their target. So I think it works both ways. The data analytics should be used extensively, and it should not be only reserved for few people, and only they should be looking at it and giving ideas. I think it should be made available to everybody, because people will draw inferences and can leverage it for their betterment. So it can help them improve their performances. It can help them gather more feedback. It can help them, make quick changes to that. And then it's a continuous process for everyone to keep learning and improving. So these are I think some of the things where data can be used real time, and managers can make a great use of these kind of reportings or dashboards, which can help them drive their people and drive the organization in the right direction.
So I think you have concluded that for us, I would say, that how significant and important it is to use real-time analytics. Because when we say real-time analytics, anything that we do, right, if it's timely, it's going to help us in a long, in a long run. So if we have real-time analysis, everything would be quicker and faster. So that will automatically help you at your level. As an employee, it will help me. As an organization, it will help the organization. As a team level, it will help us identify this gaps which are there, and we will be able to bridge them accordingly. So thank you, Sulbha, for that. We are just going to take a couple of more questions, and then we'll move on to the audience Q&A. I can already see some questions from the audience. So if you still have not asked your question, if there's anything which you would want more insights on, you can put that question and we will take that up soon. Now we have talked about the significance of performance management and data analytics in length. Now talking about the implementation, right? Implementation, obviously, it's going to have some challenge to it. So if you could share some strategies with us that can help us navigate, obstacles like data privacy concerns or resistance from employees who might be wary of increased data monitoring.
Yeah, I know. I mean, while we all love to see the data and we all love to do a lot of analysis, but it needs a lot of responsibility, both sides, both at the employer as well as the employee. So let me first talk about the organization, and then I'll probably come to the employee side of it. As an organization, when we are collecting so much data, it is extremely important that we are transparent about how we are handling our data, why we are collecting this data, and how we are storing it and how we are using it. It's extremely important to have proper data privacy guidelines for all the organization, because people want to know what you're going to do with this data, right? And for organizations, most organizations are kind of have certain compliance obligations. They are regulated sometimes with certain entities, be banks, be insurance companies with IRDA, and so on and so forth. So there are many regulatory organizations. So it's very important that the data, the way it is collected and managed, complies to all the privacy and the regulatory requirements. That's extremely important. As an organization, when we are collecting, and sometimes when we are collecting the customer data, so the anonymity and the inscription becomes extremely important. So we need to, as an organization, look at how we are protecting the sensitive data, because a lot of times organizations do collect maybe KYC or many other personal information. So how are we protecting? That's all is extremely important. And when it comes to the employees, when the employee data is collected, organizations need to have their consent, and employees need to understand what is being collected, why it is being collected, how it is going to be used, so that they have the comfort of when they're sharing with it. And as an organization, we definitely need to create robust systems and data warehouses where there is absolutely no breach or no unauthorized access, so that there is robustness and there is trust there. When it comes to the employees, I know sometimes employees may be resistant, or they may have concerns about the usage of the data and the information that's getting captured. I think it's very important for the organization to let them again know, and a transparent communication is the key here. So it is organization's responsibility to address the concerns of the employees, let them know, and address them openly and transparently, and talk to them what they are going to do with this information, how they're going to use it, how they're going to protect it, all of that. And wherever possible, to whichever extent, and again, every organization will have its own flavor and participation. They allow involve employees in the decision making. Why not? Because it is their data, and if they have their concerns, kind of allow them. And sometimes, so nowadays, a lot of organizations have also started communicating with employees through social media and even WhatsApps. So while most employees are happy with it, sometimes some may not want. So as an organization, we should be okay for an opt-in or an opt-out kind of an option that should be given. And every organization should create a very strong and a robust data ethics framework kind of a thing, where it totally clearly communicates the kind of guidelines the organization using and how responsible they are. So again, it just puts the trust into the organization. So these are again top of my mind that comes. Some of the things, when it comes to navigating the obstacles, because yes, there people and customers and employees generally do have their concerns, and sometimes there could be a resistance from the employees also.
Sure. Thanks, Sulbha, for that. I mean, it's very important, as you rightly mentioned, that we need to be transparent with our employees, and employees also need to be transparent with their feedback, with what they are comfortable with, what they're not, when sharing their data with the organization. And it's very important to be compliant also. Recently, this bill has been passed, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. So it's important that we comply with it, and if we fail to do so, there's going to be a lot of penalties. So I think, as you mentioned, the strategies that organizations can implement, being transparent, it will foster trust within the employees as well, and we wouldn't be facing any sort of obstacles, challenges, or penalties for that matter. So thank you, Sulbha. I just have one more questions from my end, and then we can take questions from the audience. We talked about the significance of performance management, the overall gamut of data analytics, and how different functions of HR can be, or HR from other departments as well, can be transformed if we use data analytics, real-time analytics. So what tools or technologies would you recommend when it comes to performance management system, or like efficiently gathering and processing data, if there are any tools or technology solutions that you would recommend?
Actually, there are many. It again depends on the appetite of the organization. I mean, I'll not get into the specifics of the platforms because again, there are many platforms that have emerged. But if I have to just stick to some of the technologies, I'm not really very technical, but top of my mind, which kind of, some of them we use at my organization also, and some of them I have come across by reading and just talking to a lot of people. I think hot word is AI, ML, any which ways people, know about it, how it helps, in predictive analytics, where, it can look at your historical data and predict the future trends and identify potential issues. That's what it does. There's something called NLP that's also being actively used. That's called natural language processing. It helps you analyze the unstructured data. So, a lot of times there are verbatims when it is about customer feedback or employee feedback in the verbatim format. So it helps you review and extract insights. So that's kind of used. There's something called recommendation engine, which is again AI ML based, which for employees it is used in recommending the kind of, say, for example, trainings that they should be doing. For customers, it could be related to the kind of products that they should be buying. So, that's where these technologies are used. A lot of organizations use and the more evolved ones who have a lot of data, so big data analytics again. So they use data warehouses where enormous amount of storage is there, and when you have to extract data from there and kind of create some analysis. Data warehouses come in very handy. Something again we use here because we have loads and loads of transaction data, and that kind of comes easy. Then there is also something called data streaming that happens, which is like doing a real-time data processing, and it becomes extremely important. They just click up a button, you're able to see the analysis, and then that kind of again widely used with a lot of. Nowadays, a lot of visual, analytics is available, and people are able to, take advantage. So there are something called interactive dashboards. So they're visually very interesting and easy to see, and they're very interactive. With just few clicks, you can choose the filters and the variables you want to see, and all of that can happen. And again, real time that happens. And there are obviously things like blockchain, which is kind of used in a lot of banks for data security and integrating all of that. That happens. Then you have something like cloud computing. These are some of the technologies I can name, and very interesting thing that we use here at RenewBuy is also in one part of our process we use RPAs, which is robotic process automation. So we have tried to make all the manual work. So we gather all the inputs and we kind of reduce the manual work, and that flows into an automatic data feed. So that's something that we have been doing. It's also, by the way, used a lot in performance management, where the data is kind of fed and put it into in a very structured manner, and can be used for further analysis. So these are top of my mind, some of the technologies that are being used. There could be many, but these are some of that I can think of.
No, I think there were a lot that you mentioned, and I hope everybody has taken notes, because that was a lot. But yeah, I mean, when we talk about technology, AI/ML is something that's like, the dairy milk of software. Like, when we talk about chocolates, we're like, okay, we like dairy milk. So now when we talk about technology, there's a lot that we talk about: artificial intelligence, machine learning, generative AI, that's been trending over the last 1 year. In fact, I see a lot of people using ChatGPT or Bard, for that matter, just sharing data there and asking it to do analysis for us, and it does that. So it's great how there are, if a full-fledged system would obviously come with a lot of features and will also cost a little more. But at your level, if as an employee also you want to analyze something, try to find the pattern, you can just use these tools as well to do so. So thank you, Sulbha. I think this was like the best, I would say, key takeaway from the whole conversation about the tools and technologies that we can explore. It's been an absolute pleasure. There was a lot that we discussed. I think it was very insightful, and thank you so much for sharing all those insights with us. I'll just quickly move to the audience Q&A now. I can see a few questions. We'll just take them one by one. So there's a question by Ayushi Shah. She's asking, who is the right person to describe or design KPIs? Is it the HR or the immediate team leader?
So, what's the name of the person? Sorry, asking.
Ayushi.
Hi, Ayushi. I think it's always a joint responsibility. Let's not put the burden on only one person or only HR or only business. I think it has to be jointly done. While the business brings the perspective of what is something that's going to drive them measure, but where the HR comes into the picture, that they help it formulate in a manner which is obviously measurable, time bound, and it's also understood by the people who are going to be impacted by the KPI. So it's a very joint responsibility, and I would strongly recommend it to be like that, because then there is a sense of purpose and ownership by all the stakeholders. It can't be that somebody has just made this, I don't have any idea. That doesn't work here, and it's a joint effort. So let it be a joint responsibility. I hope that answers the question.
I'm sure it does. Thank you, Sulbha. Moving on to the next question from Jyoti Pradeep. How can you effectively measure the performance of remote workers, in this case, home healthcare, where the parameters may be intangible?
Home caregivers.
Yes.
Interesting. So, Jyoti, I'm sure for even home caregivers, there would be some kind of roles and responsibilities that would be defined. And if I could, just picture it the way any nurse in any hospital, how many times do they measure the vital stats of the patient? And if there is, if there is a bedridden, there's a, certain set of activities that need to be given. So sponge needs to be given, something else, XYZ. So certain medical procedures or some injection or some medicine. I think the way you measure the track, at least in hospitals, there is always, a tracker there where everybody needs to write the time and sign, and somebody is looking at it. So even if it is a remote, I think technologies have evolved a lot. There can be an app or some kind of a platform where the set of activities that a remote caregiver is supposed to do, all those activities kind of gets tracked. And because there is no supervisor there, I think the best way to measure it is the person whom the caregiver is giving the care, or if there is another person in the family, you can just validate that such and such things have been done and taken care of. I think, and electronic forms and formats are available, and there are, I think, multiple tools. There are many startups actually working in this area, and they have something implemented there. So this can be easily used, and you can track their KPI and the performance.
Sure. Thank you, Sulbha. I hope that answers the question. Moving on to the next from Bhagwati. The question is, can you suggest a few PMS softwares that can be used to make HR work more convenient and effective?
So there are many, and I don't want to sound biased by naming one or few and not all, but it again depends, Bhagwati. So you should evaluate the platforms basis the journey in which your organization is, because it is also an evolution. At an early stage, you really don't need a very complicated and a sophisticated system. Sometimes simple systems works the best, but as you mature, as your organization grows, you need a different kind of system. And even if the organization is not very large, but the work is very complex, you need a very different kind of performance management system. So actually it all depends on the stage, the industry, the sector you operate in. I mean, greytHR also has a performance management too, and there are many more. So I have personally seen a few more, and when I was taking that decision, I had to evaluate it on multiple factors, because like I said, things there are many beautiful solutions available, but it just depends on what is the need of your organization, what is the appetite of your people, and what works the best. And you can just Google it, you can find many of them.
So I think what would work the best is you first identify your objectives and your requirement, and whatever is suiting that to the maximum, you can just go ahead with that. And there are a lot of softwares that come in with a trial period or a free trial, or something like that. So you can just try to check it out before, see if that's working for you, and then you can finalize. So thank you, Sulbha, for that. I'm sure that helps. Moving on to the next question. Okay, yeah. There's a question that talks about any tools that you can suggest again from where we can create smart KPI for different departments, which aligns with the organization objective.
To be very frank, I have not used tools for designing KPIs per se. This has been a very interactive and an iterative process for us. And that's how I believe. It's not about copy pasting and trying to get, while, yeah, I mean, some of it, and any performance management tool you apply, it will be able to give you some kind of a standard KPIs. That's possible, and a lot of tools do offer that. But to really get the essence of the KPI and what you actually want to drive, like in the first question, I think it should be a joint responsibility of the business and the HR to come together to identify and then kind of create it. In terms of the language and the template, I think a lot of it is available, freely. And even a lot of systems provide that. So you can then just tweak as per the requirements.
Sure. Thank you, Sulbha. I hope that answers the question. Also, I see a lot of questions on does greytHR offers that or not, performance management system. Yes, we do have that. You can connect if you're already a customer. You can connect with the customer support team to have that implemented in your system as well. Or if you're a prospect, again, you can. I will share my email ID towards the end. If there are any concerns regarding that, you can always write to me. So thank you so much, Sulbha. This has been a pleasure. I think we've already covered all the questions. There are a lot of thank yous from the audience for whom you answered the question. So thank you once again from my end also. This has been, as I said, very insightful, a lot to take in again. I will have to go and rewatch the recording again and again to brush up my skills there. But really appreciate the time that you've taken out to do this session with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rakhi. It was wonderful. It kind of helped me also when you speak and talk. I think your own learning kind of improves more. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, audience, for asking such relevant questions. Really enjoyed interacting with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There are a few, again, feedback that we are receiving here from Swati also. She's saying very good session. Thank you. Again, thank you to all the attendees. As Sulbha said, this has not been successful if you were not disengaged since the very start. Your participation has made this session a lot better. And also we talked about how, we were talking about digital privacy concerns that happens. So just to keep you all posted, we have a webinar next week on the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. You can register for that through our social media. There are links available, and it will also be sent to you on your email IDs. So yeah, please do register and brace yourself for another insightful session that we have just today with Sulbha. Also, we have a greytribe community that you can see on the screen, the link for that. It's a knowledge sharing platform, and we have HR experts, industry experts there. So if you have any questions that are still pending, any other questions that you would want to know more about related to HR and compliance, labor laws, you can always sign in to this community and ask your questions there. Our experts will help you with the responses. So thank you once again for joining us today. Thank you, Sulbha, for being a part of this session. Thank you to all the attendees. I again see a lot of feedback. Thank you, Aarti, for sharing such kind words. Really appreciate all your participation. And as promised, this webinar will be available on our greytHR YouTube channel, and the recording will also be sent to you on your email ID. So you can always check. If there are any more questions pending, you can write to me on my email ID and we will get back to you. So thank you once again, and thank you, Sulbha, for joining us.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Until next time. Thank you.